Only 24 hours since the action started just yesterday with the team sprint races. Sprint racing once again today in the classic style as it was yesterday. Obviously today it's the individual races. The women's qualification coming up in just 2 or 3 minutes time. Ian Woods and Posey Musgrave covering these races from Cogne this weekend. Thank you for joining us. And Posey, no brother Andrew racing today, not a surprise. Do you know whether he's going to compete tomorrow? Is he in Cogne?
No, he's not here at all this weekend. Decided to rest up a little bit and train up for the World Champs, as many athletes are doing at the moment, just prioritising those races upcoming.
Well, we're really hoping that the clouds above us here thin out a little bit and give us the kind of day we had yesterday. Same course as yesterday, relatively flat start, of course, and then the only real downhill coming early on when you don't really need it, to be fair, Posey. After that, it seems like it's work all the way into the finish. 1.3 kilometre loop, and everyone on a time trial format, 15 seconds apart, and we have 58 starters. No news of anyone pulling out at this point. There is one, I think, in the men later on, but we'll confirm that. 17 nations participating, and the biggest number of participants from any single nation is likely to be Italy. It certainly is in the men's field, and perhaps not so many starting in the women's field, as it is in fact smaller than the men's field overall. So 58 women to go, and Tuva Bygrave from Australia will be the last to start, and likely, as it's a 15-second interval, the last to finish, unless she can storm past teammate Phoebe Cridland, who's going off to 15 seconds before her. We'll see. Good dump of snow overnight. That won't be a problem. It's beautiful conditions out here in Italy.
Yeah, it's great to be back here. It's not a very regular stop on the World Cup circuit. As you say, 6 years since the last time World Cup came here in 2019, but it's such a beautiful place, and I think it's nice to have a new stop, and the course here is really open on this big meadow, so good for spectators and good for us to get to see pretty much that whole sprint course without kind of going into trees or getting hidden. We get a really nice aerial view, as we can see here.
Well, the crowds are streaming in, not quite so many yesterday. I guess everyone had work to do, but now we're into the weekend. News of the great action that we had here yesterday. It is a wonderful venue for sprint racing. Actually, a lot of the course tomorrow in the distance race will be visible from the stadium. Here's Yasmi Yonsu wearing bib number 6, and Yanatova of Czechia in 8. Just warming up, ready. It's actually shots from 45 minutes ago. Lara Gimler, one of the stars yesterday, handed over with a bit of a lead. So here we go. Lisa Lohman in bib number 1, qualified 13th yesterday with Katarina Hennig. Ended up down in 6th place. No podium ever so far for Lisa Lohman. The athlete from Oberhof, Anja Weber in 2nd, paired with Alina Meyer yesterday. They ended up in 12th place as our camera hits the dust or the snow.
It's an exciting camera view. Not seen that one before. A little 360 spin.
Magdalena Schurz of Austria. Qualified 11th last week in the individual sprints in Engadin. And next will be Nadine Feindrich of Switzerland, who had her last win in Val di Fiemme during the Tour de Ski. And that was classic back then as well. Camera may well, we were hoping, no, wasn't going to stay with Nadine. It's Lena Keck of Germany, 24-year-old. Didn't qualify a week ago in Engadin. Yasmi Yoansu goes next, though, Posey. Favourite for today, what do you think?
Certainly going to be up there. She's been pretty consistent over the season of being sort of fighting it out for in the finals. Not always on the podium. I think she just struggled to make that final jump, but I think I'm pretty confident we'll see her go all the way through to, at the very least, the semis and finals as well. I think could be a good one. So great if we're going to get a chance to see her out on course as well here today. Just an opportunity to have a look at where they're going to be skiing later on. So as you said, we start with after we head out, then this is really the only downhill section of the track here, but it's not huge uphills or downhills in either direction. So you can see she's having to double pole quite a long way down that hill because it's certainly not steep enough that you can afford to sort of rest and take your foot off the gas.
It's also slower than yesterday, isn't it? With this dump of snow we've had, she double poled much longer down that hill, which will be far more significant to do in qualifying later on. Everyone will be looking to, well, not everyone perhaps, there'll be one or two who want to make a break, but a lot of people will not want to go so hard so early on, so they might see them tucking down a little earlier. Stenseth gets away in bib number 10. Several fourth places on the World Cup, but would love to have a podium to add to her name. I'm going to stay with Yoansu. These those little artificial hills, Posey. They're kind of annoying, but good entertainment for us.
Yeah, well, kind of annoying is probably a good description of them. They're tricky, actually, because they're not so long that you get tired out necessarily, but they kind of break your stride, and you have to be able to be smooth transitioning in and out of the different techniques. So we can see there's a lot of, as Dahlqvist heads off there, we can see there's a lot of just different transitions from the double pole into the striding or herringbone. You can see the athlete in front doing. There's a zone there where they've got to be striding up the hill, so she's into the herringbone and then back into double pole. So it does break your sort of rhythm, and you have to be good at getting in and out of the different techniques there. But this is a good round from Jensen. She's making up good time on that athlete in front.
Well, it's what we got here, 3:18. So yeah, significantly slower than yesterday. Yoansu making up quite a lot of time on Lena Keck, as we see Magdalena Schurz come through to the finish. And no surprise, Nadine Feindrich has closed the gap on Schurz. So the timer will switch very quickly back to Feindrich. Here we go. She's going to go across the line with green ahead of teammate Anja Weber. And the gap under the banner, well, yesterday in the men it was about 12 seconds. So I think Lena Keck, obviously not having the best of qualifiers, has almost been caught by Yasmi Yoansu, who is likely, I think, to go into... I think she will go into green. I'm trying to base that on Keck's time. She does. 3 seconds up on Feindrich.
Yeah. So that was a really good ski from Yoansu. And it can be a bit, she's made up so much time on Keck, but actually it's not quite as much in front of Feindrich as it might have looked. But those two the top three seeds have a significant gap over the other athletes. So it seems to be really stretching the times out quite significantly here. We've already got a 14-second gap between Yoansu and Keck, which is a lot in a sprint. So I think it's a relatively long course here, 3:06. As you say, I think the snow's slowed it down a bit. Last week in the Engadin we were only at 2.5 minutes, which was a really short one. So the times here today do look like they're going to stretch out a little bit.
Yeah, that is pretty big, given that we've still got fewer than 10 finished. Well, here comes number 9. And Lena Keck, 14 seconds. Even Lisa Lohmann is... Alina Meyer, nearly 14 seconds down.
Yeah. I think we didn't quite get the time as she came across there, but that was pretty good from Stenseth who just crossed the line. Bib number 10, just 0.8 of a second behind that time of Yuensu. So she's the only one within a second of Yuensu at the moment.
Next to come will be Maya Dahlqvist. So we should see as the camera swings back round now. Here she is, bib number 12. Second yesterday with Hagstrom. Not quite on the same pace as Yuensu, but surely that will be good enough. Amanda Sari of Finland is next. And the second of the Norwegians, Lotte Udnesven in bib 14. Stenseth currently in 10th. No, bib number 10, I should say. I don't think she's down in 10th. She is in second, of course. Here's Lotte Udnesven. Not going to match Stenseth.
That looks like a good ski from the skier behind. So the odd numbers are actually the unseeded athletes here. So that's Marta Rosenberg coming in behind. But I think that's going to be a pretty good time from her as well, just behind her teammate, Dahlqvist. So she's coming in 5th place there.
Here's Jess Diggins. Haven't worked out yet whether she's actually got any kick wax underneath those skis. She may have decided to go waxless and try and double pole this difficult course. It is a lot of double poling, but it's always a bold move. She tried that in Engadin. It didn't work.
Yeah, first of the Italians, I think, across the line, so I'm sure she'll be getting a good shout from the home crowd there, with Katarina Gantz coming in 7th.
Sophie Krehl now for Germany. Great 3rd place for Germany yesterday in the team sprint for the women. Sophie Krehl wasn't in that team, but nice to see the form of the Germans improving. Veranova of Czechia and Laura Gimler will be next for Germany, who was phenomenal yesterday. Here she comes, Laura Gimler coming in. Won't go green, but it will be good enough for sure.
Yeah, pretty good there, 6th position at the moment, but the early starters are most of the stronger skiers today. The seeds are all going off in the first 30 skiers, so I think that's a good sign that she's going to be up there.
Lilimpera of Finland, 7:31 down, goes into 11th place. 58 starters and only the top 30 obviously going through. Kahara of Finland wasn't paired with Yuensu on yesterday's race. Niskanen going with Yuensu. Parmakoski, how is she doing? This looks good, Posey.
It does look good. I think she's going to be, again, about top 5, something like that, or just outside 7th position. But for someone who's not really focusing on the sprints these days, that's a very solid ski.
Amundsen's looking good. Both Amundsens racing today. Brother is back on the circuit after a little bit break away. I say a break, but obviously Norwegian Championships, which she had some success in. Here's Kassel. She was good yesterday and has shown a lot of quality just recently. That's going to be a good time.
That's
easily
a great
inside
ski from her. 5th position.
Now here's Ridsek. Now Ridsek yesterday, great race. Set off first on the last loop in the team sprint, was passed by easily by Yuensu and then caught by 3 or 4 others, but pulled back to get 3rd place at the end. And yeah, one of the standout performances of the day yesterday. Paced it well. Moa Lundgren is next of Sweden.
This time of Yuensu is holding up pretty well. So Yuensu's still in the lead there with 3:06. Of course, we've got a few like Hagström still to come, so we don't want to count those times too soon.
Yeah.
But I think this time is going to stack up well. There's only one seeded athlete left to go.
Niskanen is coming into view in bib number 29 here, 4th overall in the World Cup standings. Not going to go ahead of her teammate Yuensu. Actually, the numbers dropping away fairly quickly. 7.5 seconds, 7.25 seconds. Lina Canton of France just coming into view. way down. She's going to struggle today and almost outside of the top 30, even though she is bib number 30. So
that'll be a nervous wait for her. I think there's enough. You want to be probably in about 20th position or so at this point in time to feel comfortable. You should make it through. There's always a couple of later bib numbers like this one coming through, Jonsson, who outscore their ranking position.
Sonneson of the USA is not going well. It's a fair old distance from that banner, probably about, I don't know, 14 seconds, I think, on this slower snow.
She's going to be outside, isn't she?
She's going to drop below that qualification marker. Bianco of USA will be next. And close up of Bianco doesn't give us a sense of how she's doing, but I think that's not going to be good enough. Anna-Maria Dietz of Germany. The Germans showing some good form. This is good tempo from Dietz, but long way to go still.
Yeah, 30th position. She might just squeak in, but it's going to be tight, and that's going to be a nervous wait. She's in 30th at the moment. So we're about 12 seconds back to 30th position, which is the final qualifier.
Yeah. All the seeds through now.
Yeah, that's going to do it, I think. Just.
Hedda Bakemo of Norway had a very good qualification yesterday and repeats that today. And it's looking good this time of the year. Moa Hansen of Sweden.
I think she'll do well as well. I think that's another one whose ranking doesn't really give a good sense of how good she is. Although she's said that very confidently, and I don't know that she is going to make it through here.
No, that's not been a good start for Moa Hansen. Surprise! Wow, 16 seconds down on Jonsu.
I was expecting her to go through. She is lower ranked as we go through now. We're in the lower ranked skiers. That's good from Pulis of Estonia coming through in 28.
Now here comes teammate. It is Kaidi Kasiku of Estonia. Assume both sisters are racing today. They paired off yesterday. It didn't go so well for them, but Kaidi just inside at the moment. Olivia Buford-Nesbitt of Canada. The Canadians showing some really good form so far this year. That's going to be good. I think, 779. Well, currently it's 9:39, 30th place. Here's the next of the sisters. Katie comes across the line just inside. Pushes Melissa Gall down into 30th. I don't think
it is deceiving, isn't it? You can see the end in sight as you get to that banner, and you feel like you might have a chance, but it's longer than 12 seconds now, isn't it? I think she was at +2 when she got to the banner, and that's going to be about 20 by the time she goes across the line.
We've got Mandalik coming along, and then Leonie Besson of France. Sophia Hendrickson in bib number 46 should appear soon. Actually, Besson, how's her time? Is she going to get inside? Come on, let's see the line. No, she isn't. Hendrickson, though, Sophia, the gap is closed. That said, Besson is in 41st, 15 seconds down.
No, she's going to make it. So that was a last-minute call-out, actually. Hendrickson replaced by Ella Olsen, but still just outside. Getting a last-minute call-up is probably... She had a good swing at getting through there, but I think sometimes not having that time to prep and be prepared doesn't help.
Albrecht of USA is not going to qualify. Lucia Isoni of Italy.
I think she'll struggle as well. She's made up good time on Albrecht, though.
The crowd will be cheering her on. They're all lined along the barriers here, and the little man-made mound to our left, which is a massive dump of snow, just so that it creates a little viewpoint, courtesy of the organisers. Well done. Bellini of Italy, another Italian, not going to make it through, but Picardi is fairly close behind her in bib number 50. She might just do it. Well, it's 22 seconds down, so
I think she's
going to be outside.
Closer, but just outside still.
Yeah. Katie Oldham of the USA in 51.
That clock goes so quickly. You've got to be within 10 seconds now to make it through.
7 more athletes to finish. Nikon of Ukraine has not even come into view yet, so it's not unkind to say she's not going to qualify.
Yeah, I think you can, if you're in the top 30 now, I think you can start to feel comfortable that you should make it through, unless there's a really big surprise to come. So maybe 29:30 will be a little bit nervous, but everyone else should be starting to focus on that warm down and then warming back up again, thinking about the next rounds.
At the moment, sitting in 30th place, it's Melissa Gall of France. The Kasiku sisters are in 29 and 28. They'll be pleased with that. They're always so close. They are 0.2 of a second separated. Sophie Krehl of Germany is in 27th place. Lotte Udnes-Veng, actually 8:51 down in 26. Katarina Hennig in 25th. All of those positions looking safe at the moment, with just 3 more athletes attempting to qualify.
I think they're all pretty safely through now.
Yeah, so Kimberly Eva's going to be about 30 seconds down, so Cridland would have had to have passed her, and we can see that's not going to happen, unfortunately. And then teammate Tuva Bygrave of Australia in bib number 58, the last of the starters, also going to struggle now. She's made up a bit of time on Cridland, but it isn't enough. So we have our top 30. Melissa Gall can breathe out. The French coaches can relax.
Always an anxious wait if you're in that 30th spot. You never quite trusted until the last skiers crossed the line. And it did tighten up a little bit in the end. There were some fairly big gaps opening up from those first few skiers, but it's come back down to first place Yuan Su, good qualifier as you predicted, 3:06, and then 3:16 from Melissa Gall in 30th, so about 10 seconds.
Yeah, good stuff. Jess Diggins down in 17th. Top 5 places from 5 different nations, that's good. So Finland, Norway, Sweden, Switzerland, Italy, and Germany in the top 10 as well. A good sign. Melissa Gall taking that last slot, and she was 9:38 down, so a fairly chunky gap. That said, Stenseth of Norway, Dahlqvist of Sweden, who we can see now in bib number 12. She was nearly 3 seconds down on Yuan Su. Stenseth almost matched Yuan Su, almost a second down, 0.84, but the quickest qualifier, 3 minutes 6:86, is yesterday's winner in the team sprint, Yasmi Yuan Su of Finland.
I enjoyed that. It's a fun course. Not the most challenging on the circuit, but a few little bumps in there just to keep the interest up. Some nice sort of corners and wiggles as you go across those roads, those little bridges, and I think that should be great for the finals later on.
I think it's, if yesterday's head-to-head team sprint is anything to go by, it'll be a really excellent course. Obviously, yesterday there were 15 athletes racing head-to-head, a mini mass start of 15. Obviously today we've got quarterfinals coming up later on, and once the men have done their qualification rounds, it's mini mass starts of 6, and the course will really suit that little cluster of athletes racing around together. I think chances are most athletes will stay together for most of the race, but maybe a few surprises. The Americans often throw in one or two spanners into that plan. So we were talking about Jess Diggins, who has qualified in 17th place. Here she is. She was struggling with a foot injury which prevented her from racing Classic recently. So here we go. The heat selection.
Yeah. No.
Oh, late.
Fine.
Okay.
She's just been told to wait. Don't jump the queue. It's Ridzek next. Laura Gimler, another German, will go next. They are getting whatever groups they want. Trying to predict who's going to go.
Yeah, normally our selectors for heat number 1 are Jonas Sundling, Skistad, maybe Lynn Svan. None of those three are actually racing today, all choosing to rest up. So who's going to go number 1? No, not. So I wonder if some of those other Swedes, maybe Dahlqvist might choose 1, maybe Joensuu after her good qualifier just now.
Yeah. No Skistad today, Posey. No Skistad, no Svan, no Sundling. Some of the big names.
Forward to classic skiing so much in my life. So that's
Castle of Italy, best of the Italians.
That was a great ski by Castle today.
Yeah. Feindrich of Switzerland is next. Where's she going to go? Will she go Group 1? Middle of the road. Goes with Gimler. These athletes not only looking at which athletes have gone where, but they obviously know one another. And Feindrich will know Gimler and be considering, yeah, I can ski well with Gimler. I know what kind of strategy she deploys, and Gimler will be quick, and Feindrich won't mind it being quick. She'll enjoy that.
A lot of thought going on here from Stenset.
Stenset decides to go late.
Interesting. I don't know. I'm surprised that there's not that many people in Heat 1, Amundsen and Joensuu. I think I'd have probably that was, Heat 1 traditionally do get that longer recovery, so it's not a bad heat to be in.
Posey, you're usually right on this. I did email all of the teams out there this morning just to say Posey's recommendation, if you're having to ponder and looking for a lucky loser slot, go Group 1. Yeah. She's always right.
Well,
Anja Weber sorry, Posey, I cut you off there. No, you're right. No. I absolutely. Last week you were bang on, and everyone.
Last week it was Sundling often goes in that one, and that tends to make it quicker because Sundling just likes to go fast from start to finish. It'll be a little bit different because she's not here, but traditionally the people that are fast like Sundling choose Heat 1 because you get the most recovery. And I guess, for some people, they just want to make it through another round if they can get to the semi-finals. That's a win in and of itself. But it is interesting that it took a little while to fill up, and now it's got 4 people in it. Diggins going for Heat 3, right in the middle.
I think she knows that's going to be a quick heat with Feindrich and Gimler. Sari joins them. Diggins will want it to be quick. Antsova of Czechia is next. Is she going to go Group 2? Maybe Group 1. Where does she go? In 5, yeah. Niskanen now. Good classic skier.
You can't go for 2 now. That's the weakest at the moment. You can see just 3 athletes in that one, but...
Goes 1. Well done.
Good. Brave.
Courageous. Lillen Perra, also of Finland, probably won't now go Group 1, as there's already 3 Finns in that group. What do you think? She can choose any group she wants, but won't go Group 1 for sure.
Maybe 5.
Come on. I think she's just waiting for the screen to update. To Ufot Nesbitt of Canada. Steps forward, knows already what she's going to go for into 4. Number 24 is Yanatova Czechia. also fairly confident in second. And at the moment, we've got 5 more to go, and all groups are available, which is unusual. Is that right? No, Heat 4 is now full. Heat 5 is full. Kasiku sisters, will they go in the same group? They have the option of doing that. No, they don't anymore. So
they could both squeeze in Heat 3 if they wanted. Yep, one of them is.
Well, yeah. Could work together. Well done. Goes in group 3 with a sister, and last place then. Last place is Melissa Gall. It's a little confusing. What
it came up on the screen before we saw her. Actually,
before she did.
Before she did.
She didn't have any choice. She's gone in group 1, which means she has the least time to prepare. But if she gets through, she has the longest time to rest. Big ask to get through in that group with Yonsu and Amundsen too in that group. What do you think, Posey? I'm curious to see what happens with Heat 3. That's an interesting heat. Sari of Finland, the Kasiku sisters, Feindrich and Gimler will make it quick. Diggins will want it to be quick. So the lucky losers could well come from that group. Wouldn't be surprised. And Group 1 often produces some of the lucky losers.
Yeah, it's tough to call. It's quite evenly spread, I think. And we are missing quite a lot of the big names in the women's side with Svan and Sundling and Skistad and Rebom as well out, and a couple of the Norwegians. So that, sometimes there's a really often, for example, I mentioned Sundling earlier, she just pushes the pace so much, you kind of know that one's going to be fast. It's a little more evenly spread, but there certainly are people like Diggins who just like to go fast. They don't go for the tactics so much of sort of cat-mouse. It's just hard from start to finish. So those ones you can maybe expect to be a little faster.
Interesting. Only 2 seconds difference between Diggins, for example, and both of the Kasiku sisters, who are the lowest ranked in that group. And you've got Laura Gimler, who is a couple of seconds quicker than Diggins. So Gimler, therefore, almost by default selected to lead them out and set the pace, but not likely to be so quick that the group doesn't stay together. So we'll see. I really hope I'm right. It'd be great if one of the Kasiku sisters was able to qualify today, and arguably if one can, they both can. Everyone, a lot of work to do later on. They get a little break now as we switch to the men. Clouds still dominating, but a tiny little patch of sunlight hitting the snow further down the valley. So that is a nice hint at what we might get a little later on. No wind here. Engadin last week had a lot of wind on the course, and did affect how you skied this race. Conditions just about perfect, if not a little slow, especially this time of year when everyone is pretty worn out. There's Eric Valnes, who part of the winning team yesterday. Pellegrino disappointed in yesterday's race, but photo finish for 8th place. Ari Vernon currently sits in 8th overall in the World Cup standings in the sprint category, and this man Edvin Anger, the highest ranked athlete in both categories racing today, 2nd in the overall and 2nd in the sprint category. There we go. The air's warmed up just a little. 98% humidity due to, well, we can see it, can't we? It's those clouds.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think if it stays consistent like that, it should make for even racing. It's always a little bit worrying when it gets near zero for the snow changing, but just confirmation the course the men are doing here is the same as the women's that we've just watched.
Yeah. Elia Bart of Italy will start the men's clock running in just about 4 minutes' time. At least the third time he's been in bib number 1 for qualification, and it's not always there's a trend there, isn't there, Posey, based on his World Cup FIS points. He's not seeded, but he's high enough up to be often near that top of that list.
Yeah, not quite in the seeded group. We've got 15 athletes who are seeded today. So they go up to number 30 because you've got non-seeds in between them. So he's kind of just about the best of the rest. Just about is probably the best way to describe him.
He's under 23, so we'll have to decide. I'm sure he probably has already made a decision whether he'll stay in Italy next week for the Junior World Championships, the under 23 World Championships in Shilpario, or head up to Falun, or maybe do both, because there is a bit of a gap, but that would be quite a big ask. But maybe he'll head out to Shilpario to just do the individual sprints. He's obviously a bit of a star when it comes to sprinting, and a youngster that the Italians would be looking to develop. 88 starters today. 19 of those are under 23. So my hunch is that some of the nations are using these races this week to get their younger athletes ready for those Junior World Championships next week.
Yeah, and 30 nations starting in the men's race as well, which is a really, really big number for once, actually. So that's great to see. And again, maybe, as you say, is because some of those smaller nations are here getting a World Cup experience in before heading over to World Juniors.
Yeah. 30 nations, that's good. 2 started for Great Britain today. James Clooney, no surprise, but Gabe Glebhill is also racing and will be out in Shilpario next week. He's going off bib number 73 from Strathcona Nordic Club. I'm sure you know all about that club, Posey.
That's a good test. It's his local club back in Canada. So he's now, as a lot of the British athletes are, he is now based out in Norway, but did spend a lot of his childhood out in Canada. So that would be his club there.
I think over the years we've seen it happen a number of times, your brother included, that there comes a point the penny drops where if you want to have any chance of competing at the highest level, you really do have to go and plonk yourself in one of the nations where we get plenty of this white stuff, and also where there's a culture, and few places match Norway for that. Canada's great. You don't have to learn another language unless you're over on the east side, and you could probably get away with English there. But your brother, a good Norwegian speaker. Does he speak any other language? I mean, besides English?
just about manages English these days.
So Elia Bart, bib number 1. 16th overall in the Tour de Ski. That is a very, very good indication of this young man's potential. He'll be chased out by Pellegrino. 21 World Cup wins to his name. 6th in the sprint standings.
That's going to be the biggest cheer of the day, I think, as that man heads off out on course.
Now, we saw our drone just chasing him out, so we're going to stay with Pellegrino and watch him ski this course. Typically prefers skating rather than classic. And you're allowed to skate around these corners, but as we saw yesterday with Niskanen's disqualification, which was a tiny, tiny infringement, you will be watched.
Yeah.
Valnes just getting away.
A lot of controversy yesterday. Maybe we can pick that up later, Ian, because I think the Finns were not very happy with that decision against Niskanen. And I have to say, I feel pretty sympathetic to them. As we see, just like that, it's not skating, it's pushing around the corners. It's, getting yourself around those corners. And when you've got wide bends like that, the skis will come out to look like that. But, Niskanen pretty unhappy that he was judged very harshly.
Yeah, very harshly, and your description, not very happy yesterday. It really is an understatement. I don't know if Pellegrino can hear the drone behind him, but he'll be aware that all the cameras are on him right now. For someone of his experience, that won't be a problem. Up over another one of these man-made hills, they're quite tough, and they really slow things down. And positioning later on, because of the way the concertina effect happens 4 times on this course, with these little hills, positioning will be key.
Yeah, nice to see the crowds lining the whole course as Pellegrino heads round here. So again, it's not huge hills, but they are pretty sharp when you get to these bumps in the road here. So we've got to be able to change out double pole into the herringbone quickly. But again, all as important is how you get over the top and transition back into double pole. So he's taking a bit of glide there, just as we see Jimmy or Cogne head out for GB as well.
Yeah, he's chased out by Evan Northug. He'll be delighted if he finishes 15 seconds ahead of Northug. Pellegrino now, 2:10. It was about 2.5 minutes yesterday. It's going to be slower than that today, coming into the finish. A little bit of blue sky in the background, that's good. We're already at 2:27, 2:28, 2:29, so 30 under the blue banner gives us a sense of how long this last section will take. Pellegrino hasn't made up all that much time on Elia Bart, but may well, I think he will go ahead of his teammate. So Pellegrino comes across with 4 seconds in hand.
Yeah, 2:48. So it's slowed, if you were saying 2:30 yesterday, it has slowed down a lot overnight. You can see there's been a lot of fresh snow. That does slow it down. Atari coming in behind Pellegrino as well. I think this is going to be the time to watch.
Yeah, Valnes looked phenomenal double polling yesterday and takes a good 5-second chunk almost off Pellegrino. Away goes, that is bib number 5 is Ketterson. Zach Ketterson. This is not bad.
Pretty good. Just behind. I thought he was going to sneak in front of Pellegrino there, but just behind.
At the start, Oscar Opstad-Vikke of Norway. Jules Schappers will be next. The gap back to Anton Sear. Best result of 4th place. That was in Drammen last year. He's had a couple of those 4th places. Would love a podium, but the time today is suggesting he's not on the highest, the best of form. 8:20 down. Next is Harold Osberg Amundsen. Dropped down to 9th, having been in yellow for much of the early season. Now 9th overall, having not raced since Toblach. 5-6 seconds almost down, goes into 5th. Here's James. Still looking for form, I think, isn't he, James?
Yeah, could do with a good race. I think he's had just been on the wrong side of some of those qualifiers recently. So just in about, I can't remember exactly, 33rd or something last week in Engadin, and had a few of those where half a second or even a couple of tenths of a second would make the difference.
Evan Northug comes across the line. Cherny of Czechia, 3rd quickest yesterday, so this should be good. Won't match Valnes, I don't think. No, he doesn't, but only a couple of seconds outside.
This Valnes early started bib number 4, but I think that is going to be the time, if not the time to beat, certainly up there in the top 3 or 4.
Yannick Riebly, the tempo is slow. I think Yannick Riebly is pacing this well. He knows it's a long day, and he's certainly expecting to make it through. Goes into 8th of 12 to finish, which is not brilliant. Cuello of Spain coming next in bib number 13.
Complete opposite. You said about the tempo there. The comparison between the two was interesting. That was a much quicker tempo from Cuello.
We always expect high tempo from Taugbol. He's a shorter, big, powerful guy and needs that rapid limb speed. Maintains this all the time.
Just behind Cuello there.
No Schumacher, so the gap is expected here, but Oscar Opstad-Vikke will be next. Here he comes. Schumacher deciding to step out an hour or so ago.
This is going to be pretty good from Vika here. He's still got it. It does take longer than you think to get down this finish, but he's not going to be far behind Valnes.
No, that's pretty good. Goes into third. Good result. Chappers is next. Few Frenchmen coming up, including Renauget and Lucas Chanava, and in between those two and Chappaz is Edwin Anger, and you can see him now just coming into view. This is going to be good from Anger. No surprises. Wants to keep sending the message back to Klabo that that form he had, well, has had now for 2 or 3 weeks, is here to stay. They say form is temporary, class is permanent, and he's proven to be a class act from Sweden, which the Swedes desperately need. Here comes Renauget, and being chased by Lucas Chanava, who, yeah, how's he going to feature? Yeah, on a par with Anger. Cherney down in 6th. Johan Hagstrom, Sweden next. This is going to be okay.
The finishing straight is so long, isn't it? It's really deceptive. You feel like they're just about in sight, and then the time ticks away as they come down those last sort of 25, 50 metres. Ben Ogden didn't race yesterday, did he? He rested up from the team sprint.
Yep. Maybe he's just tried to pace that to make sure he strings out the deployment of that wonderful power that Ben Ogden has shown so frequently this year. Benny Moser of Austria, first of the Austrians to start and finish, obviously. Vurinen in 24th, sits inside the top 10 in the world rankings for the sprint category, and is well inside the top 10 as it stands now in qualification. Joni Mäki of Finland, another athlete who looked good yesterday.
Yeah, good showing from the Finnish women earlier. I think all 6 of them qualifying through. So clearly shows, apart from anything else, it must have got the skis right. So that always gives the men a good bit of confidence boost as they head out for this qualifier here.
Oscar Svensson coming through a little down, but yesterday's third place, for Sweden, with Halverson, who's not racing, I don't think. Pretty sure he's not on the list today. Stobel of Germany, this is pretty good for the German. Well inside into 16th place. Richard Jouve of France. Look at the tempo of Jouve.
Fast tempo.
Brilliant to watch. Sucking in air, and he's going to get well inside the qualification group, just behind Stobel. Next is an Italian, Helvega. 10 Italians racing, or trying to qualify today. Helvega comes through, well inside, just better than halfway. And then Valerio Grand, another one of the top 10 sprinters so far this year. Again, this is going to be good from him, but I think they prefer if they were racing freestyle.
Yeah, so that's the last, Grand's the last of the seeded athletes to come through. But there's still some very strong skiers in this next sort of 10 to 20 athletes. So I am expecting to see a few changes to the qualifying results as we go through.
Graham Ritchie of Canada, I was so hoping he would qualify today, but I think he's going to be pushed out by Sossau of Germany, and then Evanson of Norway.
Just coming up behind there. I think this is going to be a decent time, not the best of the day, but certainly looks like he should qualify comfortably here.
Yeah, good qualification. Xander McMullen is next. Canada's Ritchie dropped down into 31st, slowly making his way back up into the upper echelons of cross-country skiing after that long layoff, having a terrible injury just in Östersund. I think it was it last year, maybe the year before?
Yeah, it was right at the beginning of last season. We've had a couple of good results early on, and then just went out for a warm-up jog or something and fell over. It was such a freak injury.
He said he looked down at his foot and it was 90 degrees the wrong way. And he knew something was wrong. And it's been a long road to recovery for the Canadian, but good signs of that form coming back. And there's no guarantee in, take a year out, and in that year, other youngsters come in to understandably try and occupy those few slots that there are on the World Cup team. Stern of Slovenia in 28, 7:10 down, not a bad time. And 30th place is currently 8:20. That's Anton Sear of Canada in risk of being pushed down, is pushed down by Semenic of Slovakia.
So 7 seconds now. It's a little bit tighter. The women's did tighten up at the end. You needed to be within 9 seconds to qualify. We're looking at within 7 seconds to qualify here. Mattia just inside that in 27th.
Here's Remy Baudin. And a few of them having the courage to drop down into the tuck position on this home straight after you come over that little bump under the banner. Remy Baudin is going to struggle. He's going to be outside the top 30. What a shame. David Graz is next. How does the gap look? Well, based on Baudin's time, who is reasonably quick usually, but 7 seconds, we're almost there. He's outside, 32nd. Ralph Johnson of Canada. I think I was going to say I think he can, but
he might. Oh, he's going to be close.
Yep,
I think he's going to be
just about there.
26.
Dapra.
He's got a couple of places to play for, but a couple of Italians coming through is going to have the crowd on their side as they come up to the line here.
Won't be enough though. No matter how much they shout, Dapra's going to be behind. But Gabrielli, Giacomo Gabrielli, 44, might just do it. The gap to Dapra looks encouraging. Yeah, I think he's going to. I think he's going to do it. Posey. So another Italian comes through.
Nice.
And Mans Skoglund of Sweden. Now that gap doesn't look good. I reckon there is at least 2.5 seconds, but we'll find out in a second. That's close. No, I think he's going to do it. I'm going to be wrong, aren't I? Once again.
I think he's going to do it.
Easily inside. I was so wrong. Giovanni Tico of Italy is coming next in 46. Can't see how much further he's got to go, but it won't be enough. Starego of Poland in the background. As we see Tico go out, we know Starego will then go out. Hakola of Finland is in 48, set off 15 seconds after Starega. Start to tell now what the gap looks like. And it's actually looking not bad for Hakola of Finland in bib number 48.
He's got a chance here, I think.
Grits his teeth. The time is so close, but he's actually not bad. Marko Kilt of Estonia. I think that gap might just be a second too slow. You agree with me? I
do agree, but I'm always wary. We should learn to never predict in the sprint qualifiers. It goes too quickly, yeah.
Morcellini, again, I think the gap is 100 metres back.
I had half an eye on Morcellini today. He's had some podiums in World Cup and then I think struggled with injury in the last year. There he goes. Yeah, that's more what he's looking for.
Luke Jaeger, on the other hand, in 51 for USA. Raced yesterday, I think he did. He was the starter for Team 14. They ended up in position number 14 in the team sprints yesterday. But today he will go no further. So, who have we got sitting in 30th at the moment? Grol Johnson of Canada, 6:53. Yannick Riebly in 29th.
Well, yeah,
it's
going to be a nervous wait while these last 30 athletes come through. I think there often are, as we say, 1 or 2 surprises at the back. So, you're going to be a bit of a nervous wait for Riebly, for Benny Moser in 28th, Grol Johnson in 30th. I think they're all going to be watching the clock anxiously as these last skiers come over.
Chiocchetti, 54. Is this going to be good enough? It isn't actually. So. I mean, the gaps now are quite close, but that's not going to be good enough. And Anton Gran of Sweden
I think this is looking good, actually.
Wow, look at
That's
that.
a very good time.
The gap was tiny. Look at that, goes into third.
Place.
Epic. Olaf Jonsson, his teammate of Sweden, well, he'll be anxious because he hasn't seen Anton Grahn for the whole loop, I don't think. He'll be anxious that he's left it too late, but 25 metres to go. I don't think he's going to do it. He isn't. Well.
Anton Grahn we don't see very much on the World Cup. He's quite young, born in 2004. So suspect, again, maybe there are some younger skiers here over ahead of the under-23s. And what a great way to make the most of that opportunity.
Comes from Mora in Sweden, the home of it's the Vasaloppet, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I wonder how many of the young stars from that club are just gently filtered into distance racing rather than sprinting, given the fame of that. One of the most famous big marathon races on the World Cup, the Loppet circuit. Ingfus of Australia in bib 59. Again, an athlete we are likely to see next week in Chilpario, the Junior World Champs. And Lars Young-Vik, second Vic racing today, is that right? Or have I just imagined that? Yes, it's spelt differently, but I suspect it has maybe a Norwegian history to it. Here's Abram of Italy.
Ooh, that's close for him, that's a shame. 33rd, so just a couple of tenths of a second outside of qualifying.
Well, Yannick Riebly is the man who is now holding his breath, hoping that the seeding or the start list, which gives you a sense of where people should finish, the final running order. One man that could deny him that. I'm just wondering whether Cogne of France, he's a young lad, but the French usually quite selective with their start places in the sprint races. Here he comes. He's in bib number 65. Cogne. Well, I think he might just push Valerio Grand out of the rankings. It's
Clock goes quickly here.
Oh no, he doesn't. What a shame for young Ivan. Well, close.
Riebly will be heaving a sigh of relief there. That was 4 tenths of a second outside qualifying, so gave it a good run.
Well, Valerio Grand and Riebly, both of them in... Actually, Grand is in 15th, so he's pretty safe. He's not going to move.
I think it'd be bigger surprises now to see anyone coming from these back 20 starters. The ranking, you can see from the points they have, their rankings have dropped away quite considerably, so you'd be skiing well above your ranking to get through just now, but it does happen.
Britain's second attempted qualifier today, Gab Gledhill, is out on the course. This is 68. Solitis of Latvia. Is that going to be good enough? No, it isn't. Yeah, the time's now considerably slower. Dalfara of Argentina is just coming over the hill, if indeed that is him, if he hasn't been lapped or passed. It is Argentinian, bib number 70. Just 25-year-old, so plenty of time to develop if he gets these opportunities on the World Cup. Lissor of Ukraine. I saw the gap and was tempted to suggest that he might be doing well.
Gaps are closing between some of these back ones, but they're still too far behind those top runners overall.
Skender in 72 and 73 is Gab Gledhill, and we're just a little bit.
Yeah, I think Gabe will be just here for experience today. He prefers the distance anyway, but I think because we've got quite a small GB team, it's getting a start in the sprint, and I think any World Cup start you get is really valuable. So It's great that he's out here and just getting a go. So well done, Gabe. And I think he'll be looking forward to tomorrow, and then heading over to under-23s.
Yeah. So, bib number 74. So we've got another 14 athletes to finish.
It's a big field today, 88 athletes.
So Reebley in 30th. I'm sure he is a little anxious. Surely he would know that he's sitting in 30th. So it's been a while since he finished now. Benny Moser in 29th. 77 is Kasanov of Kazakhstan, another young athlete, but already.
Yeah, skied above his ranking, so he's made up some places on the ranking, but too far down that it's pretty tight. You've got to be within 6 seconds of that time of Valnes to be qualifying now.
I'm just looking to see who hasn't qualified, who do we know. So Amundsen is out. Tagbol, no, Amundsen is just in. Sorry,
he's just on the edge. 27.
Yeah. Tagbol is in. I was reading the wrong numbers.
I think there's no huge surprises for me. A little bit surprised maybe Oscar Svensson in 35. He's not one that we see on the podium too often, but he's consistent in qualifying through.
Yeah, and made the podium in the team sprints yesterday.
Yeah.
So, remember that was him going the anchor leg. So came across the line with that little group, and 2 seconds ahead of 4th place, which was Norway 2. Ansgar Evensen, who I think has
all the Norwegians have made it safely through. So no one else that's kind of huge standout in terms of not qualifying. You know, some reasonably regular ones haven't quite made it through, but none of the standouts for me have not been on the right side of the cut. And I think we start to breathe easy now. We get down to these last 8 or so finishers.
Just 2 seconds separating 30th and 40th place. Sander McMullen down in 45th, 2.5 seconds slower than Yannick Riebly, who looks pretty certain to go through now. I think it's more than pretty certain.
Yeah, I think we should be okay here.
Well, what we need now is just a little bit of wind for about 20 minutes to blow the clouds away and bring a little more cheer to the slightly grey skies here in Cogne. Big field in the men's qualification. Only the top 30, of course, will go through. None of the Brits, sadly, making it. And they will now turn their attention, having attempted yesterday and today, another chance tomorrow where if they're feeling up to it, they will be representing Great Britain. No Andy Young, no Andy Musgrave.
No, neither of them here this weekend, both in training ahead of those World Championships, which are just over a month away, or just about a month. I think the 28th of February is the first race, isn't it? So last chance to get some training in.
So 3 nations in the top 5 on this occasion. Edwin Anger is up there, second quickest. Valnes is the quickest, so he's the man that Anger will have his sights on. And Anton Gran, who was a relatively late start, bib number 55, surprises. Schoenmaker of USA is in 5th, Oscar Vick in 4th, Oscar Vick in 6th. And the last qualifiers, Yannick Riebly, Benny Moser in 29th, and Joni Mäki in 28th. Here's Anton Gran, his sleeves rolled up. Slind is the other athlete who regularly has her sleeves rolled up, looking like she's here to work. Edwin Anger. Always looks like he's smiling. And in the last 3 weeks, I think he has been a lot more often than he was up until certainly halfway through the Tour de Ski, where things just didn't seem to go so right for him. But Erik Valnes of Norway, it is not easy to move at that speed with that kind of purchase in the herringbone technique. Valnes making it look easy, and someone who is a powerhouse when it comes to double pulling down this long finish in front of the crowds. Watch out for him later on. We'll get the heat selection done, and then a little break for everyone before we come to the finals just a little later on today. If you're setting your watches or timers to come back and join us for the finals, the men's and women's finals start at 12 o'clock midday UK, 1 o'clock here in Italy.
A few Italians through for the home crowd to cheer about there, with not just Pellegrino, who is a little further down as well in 16th, but we've got Giacomo Gabrielli, pretty new name for the Italian team, in 13th, and Helvega and Mocellini as well. So 4 Italians have made it through. Oh, good to see some Italian interest for the locals as we just wait for the heat selection to start. Ben Ogden leading it off, choosing heat number 2 there.
Shanavar, we didn't mention him much, but where did he end up? In 9th place, 9th quickest, 2:44 down on Valnes. Vurinen happily selects 4. Didn't take long to decide. The American team's just assessing, having a look, and they'll be advising Shoemaker, who will be coming up very shortly. Journey of Czechia decides to go in the 5th group. Vicker of Norway, where's he going to go? Late on in 4th. Shoemaker, what do you think, Posey? Where will he go?
I'm going to guess 3. Oh, no, 4. It's a complete guessing game, isn't it? We don't know any more than anyone else,
no,
do we?
We really don't. I think...
Well, this is what... I'm interested to see what Grant does. Again, he's new on the circuit, and sometimes that makes you cautious, and sometimes you go, do you know what, I'm just going to go for it. Put myself in with the big boys.
Anger makes a statement of it in Group 1. Shanavar is in... I didn't spot that earlier.
Valnes might go 1 as well. Yeah, that's the tough heat now, 1 and 2, both in heat 1.
Valnes and Anger. Shanavar in 9th, who on paper is one of the top 3 sprinters. Chopin's in 12. Gabrielli of Italy is decides to go late. I'm wondering whether the conditions or the anticipation of conditions changing might affect some of these decisions. I can't see how they would change too much. It looks pretty stable out there, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's not the easiest conditions. I think I'd be a little bit anxious if I was a waxer, because it's around about freezing at the moment. But it's consistently going to be about that, so I don't think it'll get too much better or worse between the heats.
Pellegrino having to ponder a while where he's going to go. In heat 3, goes with Shanavar, Valera Grand.
We've got Evan Nortug coming up as well, who's been really strong in these classic sprints over the season. So he's only qualified in 19th today, but interested to see where he decides to go. Yeah, Heat 2, that's going to be a tough one now. No one wants to touch Heat 1. No one wants to go in with Valness and Anger.
Marcellini of Italy, another one of the Italians qualified. 10 attempted.
Yeah, good.
Goes
Brave,
with
like it.
the first group. Puyo, great to see he's made it through to the quarterfinals once again. Fills up heat number 5. Targ Ball, will he join? No, I was going to say, will he join one of his Norwegian colleagues, and doesn't. The only Norwegian in group heat 3 at the moment. Stovall being brave. Juve, where does he go? Fills up heat 4, so the trend being to avoid, once again, heat 1. Hakala sticks his neck out. Harold Amundsen is inevitably going to be in a heat with other Norwegians.
Took his time over it, didn't he?
So heat 1 is full, and so at least Riebly, Moser and Mackie know they don't have to go in heat 1 if they don't want to. Two more to decide. Benny Moser goes for heat 2, leaving qualifier number 30, Yannick Riebly of Switzerland, joining Shanavar, Skoglund, Grand Pellegrino and Targ Ball in heat 3. And that concludes the qualification rounds. So we look forward to seeing you a little later on. The race starts at midday in the UK, 1 o'clock here in Italy, and the show starts at about 10 to 1, approximately 10 to 1 in Italy, 10 to 12 back in the UK. These are our 30 qualifiers. Valness, Anger, Shanavar, the favourites to be on the podium at the end of the day, but Shanavar not as quick as we expected him. Well, we hope that good signs of the sun just peeking its way through, that will warm the things up and give the waxers a bit of a problem. Well, the conditions may change a little, but it will be great to see the finals, the women first and then the men later on in about an hour's time.